So now that I have those three different types of tubes in the assembly, I can start filling in some of the missing details on the rest of the chassis. So adding in the final structural components and really making the thing rigid. So I wanted it to be strong, not only in a rollover, but also very rigid in torsion around the longitudinal axis of the frame. Torsional rigidity seems to be key for car performance. And if you have too much chassis flex, it can cause binding between components that are undesired. So I'm just adding in more and more arcs wherever I can to flesh out the roof and still continuing to make sure that all the dimensions are easy to fabricate. This part right here, the shock mount, needs to be kind of a funky shape to interface with all the different tubes, but ultimately ended up looking pretty cool, which I'm happy about because, again, it's the most prominent piece that's fabricated on the chassis is the shock mounts, and a lot of people try to make those look as cool as possible. So I'm adding in the rest of those 2-inch tubes here to tie in the suspension components to the broader chassis. And this part here with the upper radius link mount was kind of tricky because it's really wide to make room for the rod ends that I use. So I had to have two tubes that were pretty close to each other, but not quite parallel because one is curved and one is not. But I think it ended up being the right shape. And then back here, I need to make sure that the torsion bar is fully constrained in all three directions because it's going to have a bunch of weird loads on it. It's not going to have necessarily a force load on that tube in the direction of the suspension, but what it is going to have is a twisting moment as the torsion bar fights the sway bar arms. So again, with sway bars, as one part of the vehicle rolls, it tries to push the other side of the vehicle down. So it keeps the vehicle flat as you're going through a turn or articulating over rocks. And so I'm hiding those straight cuts with some more curves to make it look a little bit cooler and follow the arc of the roof because that roof line has a curve to it. And so all those forces are going to be pushed back down into the back of the chassis in a rollover. And the more tangent they are to each other, the stronger they're going to be. And now I'm adding some more beams to capture the shock mounts to constrain them laterally and vertically because the entire weight of the vehicle is going to be supported by this plate. And so it needs to be tied into the frame in a really secure way. So I'm just making some lightweighting cuts here to make this part look a little bit more designed than it is. I don't know a ton about chassis design. Basically what I'm doing on this is just following force loads throughout the chassis and making sure that there's no points where a force load reaches a dead end or intersects with a beam that's going to have a bending moment on it.